Hi, boys and girls, and welcome to the West region. The West region is the largest of the five regions. It is made up of 11 states, and two groups of states make up the West region. The first region is the mountain states. That is made of Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and Idaho. The second group is called the Pacific states. That's made up of California, Oregon, Washington State, Hawaii, and Alaska. Several mountain ranges cover much of the West. The largest mountain range is the Rocky Mountains, which forms the eastern edge of the region. The Rockies begin in the far north in Canada. From there, the Rockies stretch south all the way to Mexico, going across Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Colorado. The Rocky Mountain Range is nearly 3,000 miles long and hundreds of miles wide. Along the Pacific coast, more mountain ranges form a giant H on the map. The coast ranges make up the first long line of the H. The low mountains of the coast ranges seem to rise right out of the Pacific Ocean. They form cliffs in many places along the coast all the way up to Alaska. The highest mountain in the United States, Mount McKinley, is part of the Coast Range. Mount McKinley in Alaska is 20,320 feet high. The Sierra Nevada Mountains in the south and the Cascade Mountains in the north form the second long line of the H. These mountains are covered with forests. So if we look here, boys and girls, here's one line of the H. Here's the other line of the H. And you see they meet up there to connect. Some of the mountains in the west are volcanic mountains. Volcanoes are openings in the Earth's surface. Gas, steam, stones, ash, and melted rock are forced through these openings. The melted rock is called lava. Volcanic eruptions happen, but not often. A famous eruption happened in 1980 when Mount St. Helens erupted explosively. This eruption destroyed trees, melted ice and snow on the mountain, and caused landslides and floods. Animals were killed, and some people lost their lives. This is a picture of Mount St. Helens before the eruption, which is this picture right here, and then after the eruption. So if you notice, if you look at this picture, the whole top of this mountain is gone. That exploded off during the eruption. Several valleys lie in between the Coast Ranges and the Sierra Nevada Mountains and the Cascade Mountains. Two of the valleys, Central Valley and Wilmette Valley, are covered with deep, rich soil. Many rivers travel through these two valleys. The Great Basin lies in the middle of the West region. A basin is a low, bowl-shaped landform that is lower than the rest of the land around it. The broad, flat valley of the Great Basin is mostly covered by the Great Basin Desert and the Mojave Desert. The Great Basin Desert is the largest desert in the United States. Death Valley, a part of the Mojave Desert, is the hottest, driest, and lowest place in the United States. Death Valley is 282 feet below sea level. The highest temperature ever recorded in Death Valley was 134 degrees. The Great Salt Lake is one of the largest lakes in the United States. The Great Salt Lake is about 75 miles long and 35 miles wide. The Great Salt Lake is very shallow. Most of the lake is only 3 feet deep. Unlike most lakes, the Great Salt Lake is full of very salty water. It is even saltier than the ocean. It is this salty because several rivers flow into the Great Salt Lake, but no water flows out of the lake. When the water evaporates, the salt is left behind. The Great Salt Lake is too salty for fish. The only animals that live in the lake are tiny brine shrimp. Although they are small, brine shrimp are an important food source for the millions of birds that live around the lake. Dry and flat areas called salt flats surround the Great Salt Lake. The salt flats were left behind when Lake Bonneville, a big prehistoric lake, dried up thousands of years ago. Believe it or not, the West region also has a rainforest. The rainforest that runs along the Pacific coast from California all the way to Alaska is the largest temperate rainforest in the world. Temperate rainforests are very wet, ancient forests that rarely freeze or get very hot. Temperate rainforests are also close to the ocean. Some of the large old trees, such as the giant redwoods, stick-up spruce, and western hemlock, reach over 300 feet tall and live over 500 years. Alaska and Hawaii, being apart from the other western states, are very different from the other states in that region. Alaska is the largest of the state in the United States, but it has the fewest number of people of any state. The northern part of Alaska is a tundra, a cold, flat, treeless land. So that's a picture, boys and girls, of the state of Alaska and the actual size of Alaska. Normally when we see it on a map, it doesn't look that big because it's off on the side, but that's its actual size in comparison to the other states. So you can notice it's much bigger by far than any other state in the United States. The Hawaiian Islands were formed from volcanoes, two of which are still active. Hawaii is made up of 8 main islands. Its islands were made long ago by volcanoes that grew up out of the Pacific Ocean. Climate. The weather conditions that usually occur in a particular place is the climate, remember. That means the temperature, the amount of rain, and wind. The climate in the West varies greatly depending on where you are. So on the coast, it can be rainy, mild, wet winters, cool, foggy, and cloudy summers. Okay. In the Great Basin, they get much less rain because remember it's mostly a desert and it's warmer there. The Rocky Mountains get less rain, they're cooler in the summer, and they get heavy snow in the winter. Just as the West has different landforms, as we were saying, the West has lots of different climates. You could travel from cold and rainy climates to extremely hot and dry climates, and all in this region. The western part of the region along the Pacific coast receives a lot of rain. The coastal areas have mild, wet winters and cool, foggy or cloudy summers. As you travel east across the region through the Great Basin, the rainfall amounts decrease and the temperature gets warmer. In the Rocky Mountains, there is heavy snow in the winter. The snow remains on the ground for months at a time. Once the snow melts, the water goes into the Colorado, Rio Grande, and other rivers. The climate in Alaska is very unique. It is cold and wet for much of the year. Many places in Alaska receive as much as 100 inches of precipitation a year. That means rain, snow, sleet. Alaska is farther from the equator than any other state. As a result, it is the coldest state. Alaska has short summers and long winters. The winters are very cold with strong winds. Its winters are so cold that the houseflies can't even survive there. Lakes and rivers in this area are frozen for most of the year. Hawaii lies closer to the equator than any other United States state. Its climate is sunny and warm all year round. Hawaii enjoys a warm climate, but not too hot due to the cold ocean winds, or cool ocean winds, I should say. There is a lot of rainfall all year. This helps palm trees and other tropical plants grow year-round. The island of Kauai is the wettest place on Earth, receiving almost 40 feet of rain each year. Okay, so showing you Alaska, it's cold, close to the North Pole. It has short summers, very long winters, very cold, and strong winds. Hawaii is close to the equator. It's sunny and warm all the time. They get cool ocean winds that help cool it off, and it's very, very rainy. The Pacific coast lies over many fault lines, which increase the dangers of earthquakes. The most famous is the California's San Andreas Fault, which is more than 600 miles long.